皆さん、本日はご参加いただき誠にありがとうございました。Do not worry, I will not be doing the rest in Japanese. So, the last time I moved, I had 24 hours between when my old lease ended and my new contract began, which ended with me camping on my friend's floor and catching the first flight the next morning. In hindsight, a little more overlap between these contracts would have saved me a lot of strife, but surprisingly, it went relatively smoothly. I will say, a big reason it went so well was because I planned the entire move down to the minute. And it was a defining moment in my Type A life where I saw just how much a detailed plan, even if it can seem like overkill in the moment, can change an intimidating and often chaotic process into something manageable. In the last few days, I have had quite a few people come up and ask what our session title means. And my answer is this. Moving houses is something everyone has experienced at some point in their life, and most people tend to agree that it's not much fun. Unfortunately, moving mobile device services is looked at in the same light, with many administrators hesitant to take on such a big task unless they are facing equally significant problems, which not many products on the market currently present. However, there are many different reasons a company may be interested in migration, whether it is looking for a better fit in service provider or looking to combine environments that were previously separated. Luckily, the updates to ABM in OS 26 are making this process much more approachable, and we are very excited to see how this is going to both free up users' choice and give vendors a little extra motivation to keep their customers happy. Today, I hope we can show you just how approachable migration can be with the right knowledge, planning, and testing. And of course, to remind you that Apple, your service providers, and your community as a whole is there to help make this process as easy as possible for you. With that being said, Eric, do you remember the last time you moved?
Yeah, it was from our place that we were renting to a house that we had just bought. It sucked, but it was totally worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, most people don't want to move unless they have a really good reason, and that is definitely a good one. On the screen right now, I have two pictures that I think really encapsulate the chaos of moving. And if that is not chaos, then I don't know what is. This is when I was choosing which clothes would go into the storage section under my bed, hence the mattress shoved to the side, and what would get the honor of staying in my closet. The pile down there are the unlucky options that got sent to the thrift store. But one of the best parts of moving is that you can really pare down all the things you don't need but haven't bothered to throw away.
And I think migration is an example, like your clothes that you get rid of. Migration is a chance to think about all the things that you've done before, all those old scripts that maybe a previous admin had done, and maybe don't bring them to your new life.
Yes, just like everyone ends up with clothes they don't need, you almost definitely have settings you don't need lingering in some hidden folder in the back of your environments. And a move is the prime time to get those gone.
Grace, I think you need to explain what's happening here and how on earth you ended up there.
Well, actually, as Diana talked about earlier today, this was a bit of a side quest during my move. I had to go fetch a mattress and carry it across Tokyo for a temporary roommate. At the time, I thought I was so smart for bringing ropes and a towel so I could tie it to my back and carry it across the city, all by myself. In actuality, it was a nightmare. It was so heavy to walk with, it hurt my shoulders even with my padding, and I terrified all of the locals on the train with me. But it is a perfect example of how something can seem like a foolproof plan on paper, only for it to go completely different in practice. Luckily, a digital move is much easier to test out than a physical one, and you should take full advantage of that fact. But even so, there will be new solutions you're onboarding in conjunction with your new device management service, new scripts or workflows that may run differently than you thought, or mess with some existing setting in a way you couldn't predict. Today, we want to talk about what to expect from migration so that hopefully you can avoid as many of these surprises as possible.
Was it hot?
Oh my God, it was horrible. I definitely should have accounted for the weather as well.
Earlier this week, we already learned a bit about the new built-in migration with Apple Business Manager and the 26 versions of the OS. So this will be a little bit of overlap from what you've already heard, but I'm going to dig in a little bit deeper. I'm going to narrate a video demo. It's just 4 minutes long, and I'm going to share some of the mistakes that I made so that you don't make them in your testing. But really, the planning is the most important piece. So Grace is going to be doing most of the sharing after I do that video. We just want you to be successful and encourage you to test before you jump, and hopefully give you the skills that you need for a painless and successful migration. I've been participating in MacSysAdmin for a number of years, and it's great to be back. I'm visiting from Chicago, where the TV show The Bear has made Italian beef sandwiches popular. I actually brought some Chicago food theme flavored potato chips with me. I think they didn't get crushed in the luggage. There's 4 flavors: Chicago deep dish pizza, Chicago hot dog, Chicago Italian beef, and giardiniera, which is kind of like a pickled pepper. They're all vegan, and they'll be at the kanji table. So after the session, please grab a pack. I only have 40 packs of chips, though, so I ask you to share, and that way you'll also get to maybe taste the chip, see if you can get all 4. I've only managed to taste the Chicago deep dish pizza and the Chicago hot dog. And the Chicago hot dog really encapsulates the flavor of the aftertaste of eating a Chicago hot dog. The pizza for me, the tomato paste, it just hit me in the face. And then after I let that sit and swallowed the chip, I got the dough, like I got the crust taste. So they're complex, so give it some time, taste it, and then experience the aftertaste. All right, I've been with Kanji since 2021, and before that, I was an independent consultant, an author, and trainer, and services integrator for 23 years. We met Grace last year, and I was in Tokyo, and I was really impressed by her organizational skills and her ability to grok the technical details necessary to complete a project and a plan. So I was really excited when Patrick agreed to have me and Grace on stage together to share this presentation.
My name is Grace, and I'm also so excited and thankful that I got the opportunity to be here this year. So a huge thank you to both Eric and Patrick for having me here. And happy birthday. Obviously, it is my first time at MacSysAdmin and in Sweden. And when I first joined, I was looking through the Slack channel trying to find information on what the actual conference was like, and I could only see things about bananas. And I was so confused. So thank you to Patrick and Ed for clearing that up this morning, finally. My company, Magic Hat, is based in Tokyo, and we distribute various foreign IT solutions to Japanese organizations that use Apple products. And one of those solutions that we onboarded about a year and a half ago is Kanji, which is how I met Eric. He came to Tokyo for a hands-on event with 3 huge Pelican cases full of equipment that he and his wife Heather brought, and we were all so impressed he managed to get them all into the country. But now, let's quickly review the changes made to ABM in OS 26.
All right, so here's what was available before 17 days ago, before the OS 26 versions in the changes that came with Apple Business Manager. For iPhone and iPad, there wasn't really a migration story. In order for the device to be, for an iPad or an iPhone to be supervised in that new device management solution, you had to erase it, and you had to re-enroll it through automated device enrollment. So it had to go through ADE again. And for some cases, this wasn't really that big of a deal because it was a chance to switch out from the old device to the new device. So sometimes that migration wasn't that challenging. Now, for a Mac, because a device can be in one and only one MDM solution, you had to first remove the Mac from the old device management solution, which left it unmanaged and unsecured, and that's a scary time to be in. You basically, once once that Mac is unmanaged, then you need to do the equivalent of sudo profiles -n to get that banner to appear in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. You had to rely on the user to not ignore that, to click it, and then to authenticate. And in modern versions of Mac OS, they didn't need to be an admin. They could be a standard account. And there's other caveats in the Bootstrap token, and which I talked about last year. And then the device would get enrolled in the new solution. If the device was not enrolled through automated device enrollment, then you'd have to visit the enrollment page or download a profile, and then open system settings, then open the profile within system settings, and authenticate. And both of those methods rely on the user kind of not ignoring it. And at Kanji, to help customers make that migration in a confident way, we have a migration agent that we custom build for each customer. And the migration agent just sits in the background and it does its best to keep that awkward time of unmanaged, that awkward state of being unmanaged, as small as possible. So as soon as you removed that Mac from the old MDM, migration agent would kick in and do the sudo profiles -n if it was an ADE enrolled Mac, or if it's not an ADE enrolled Mac, it would open Safari to the appropriate enrollment page. So in short, before Mac OS 26, iOS 26, iPad OS 26, there wasn't really a great way of handling migration. Migration for Mac and iPad just didn't really exist. It wasn't really a thing, and tricky for the Mac. But our Kanji migration agent helped with that process. But now we've got more options with 26. So MDM migration is built in to the platform, so that de-risks the migration. I'm going to show you how to enforce, and we went through lots of clicks.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you how to set and enforce deadlines, and if the device management solution supports it, you can preserve managed apps and their containers, so the contents of that app, the data for that app, for iOS and iPad OS. But you got to make sure that the new device management solution supports that. For Mac, if you unenroll a Mac, managed apps will be removed. However, don't take my word for it. You need to test to make sure that all the pieces are in place. As I said earlier with Kanji, actually I didn't say this yet. At Kanji, we've got a bunch of scripts that we use in conjunction with the migration agent so that we use these scripts to clean up after the old MDM solution, whether that's a login window replacement, removing the agent, removing all the other extra stuff that the old solution left behind. So to be clear, the built-in Apple MDM migration for Mac doesn't remove any of that extra agent-based stuff, login window replacement. The built-in MDM migration facilitates unenrolling and re-enrolling. So there's going to be a bunch of extra stuff for the Mac. Okay, I've got two, so I'm going to show you what this looks like. I've got two Kanji tenants, Arek 1 and Arek 2. There's an iPad and a Mac that's going to be demoed. We only have 30 minutes for the session, and we're already down to 14 burned. So we don't have time to manage switching screens around. Plus, we're using Canva in the browser to present. Grace encouraged me to embrace this as a new tool and learn new things. Thank you, Grace. I'm about to start a video using Apple Business Manager to reassign devices with the deadline and what it looks like on those devices as they get notifications and as the devices start to migrate. Video is less than 4 minutes, so I'm going to have to narrate it. And I'm going to narrate it. Before I start, let me set the stage. I'm going to have Apple Business Manager open, and I've applied filters to show only the two devices that I want to show you. In the video, they're currently enrolled in the Arek 1 tenant, and I'm going to reassign them to migrate to the Arek 2 tenant. All right, here we go. All right, so we're going to select the two devices, click Assign Device Management, click Assign, choose the new device management service, click Add Deadline. The earliest deadline available is the next day at midnight, which makes testing this a little tricky. Click continue, and then continue again, confirm. A progress bar appears showing that the change is made. You can see, once this is done, and dismiss that, you can see that when you select a device, the deadline is set, and you can change that deadline. You can pick a different date. You can even a different time. You can remove the deadline. And I'm just going to click cancel and not going to make any change. Well, let's take a look at what it looks like on the Mac. You see a notification. If you click the notification, it opens system settings. Then you can click start enrollment, and the device management screen takes over. You could pick a different Wi-Fi network if you want. But in this case, I don't need to. I'm going to authenticate. I'm going to authenticate as a standard account in this case. And now we see the progress in the lower right-hand corner, a little gear, spinning gear, showing what's happening. So it's unenrolling from the old Kanji tenant, and you're going to see something pop up from the Kanji agent saying that this kernel extension manager is there. That's because it's in applications utilities. This MDM migration doesn't move the old stuff around, the old agent stuff. Now, Kanji, we made the explicit decision that if you decide to remove your Mac from Kanji, and the agent sees that the MDM profile for Kanji is not installed, we're going to see ourselves out. The Kanji agent is going to uninstall itself, and any of the other things like the login window replacement, passport, the endpoint security, we're going to remove all of that because we want the best for your users no matter what. In this case, we're re-enrolling with a different Kanji tenant, so the Kanji agent is going to remain installed. And again, that lower left-hand corner shows what's happening. In the original video, it's about 92 seconds from the time that I clicked enroll until the time that enrollment complete is displayed. So next up, I'm going to show what it looks like on iPad. So I'm going to open settings and tap enrollment required. I'm going to tap start enrollment, start migration. You can either tap not now or tap restart. I'm going to restart, cut out that part in the video. The device returns full screen, then you can either say not now or continue because the deadline hasn't occurred. So now it's unenrolling with the old MDM solution. It's going to re-enroll with the new MDM solution. And once that's done, I want to just show that in this case, the apps have been removed, and the apps are going to be, the managed apps are going to be reinstalled. Do you want to see what it looks like when the deadline hits? All right, great, because that's what's the next in the video. So it's like full screen, I can't do anything. These are some apps that are open. I'm going to quit one of these apps, and you see that oh yeah, Keynote wants my contacts information. Okay, so there's still 2 more apps that are open. I said no, force quit them, and now I'm going to authenticate again. Here's that familiar full screen device management screen. I'm going to click enroll, authenticate, and so you get the picture. I'm not going to go ahead and show what this looks like on iPad. It's a similar process. So I'm going to move on. And some takeaways from that. We're really excited that Apple built the Apple MDM migration for iOS 26, iPadOS 26, macOS 26. For Mac, there's no longer that dangerous period when the device is unmanaged. You see that full screen, the user can't do anything while that transition is happening. It puts pressure on device management solutions to keep innovating and to keep solving customer problems and to keep providing value. And it gives organizations, customers of device management solutions more power because it means that it's more realistic to be able to move to a different solution that actually meets their needs. This native migration feature has been publicly available for a whole 17 days. That's less than 3 weeks. In your testing, make sure that for iPhone and iPad, apps and their containers are preserved, if that's what you want. For Mac, confirm that the file vault recovery key is escrowed. You can do that with sudo FDE setup for full disk encryption, FDE setup validate recovery. And then you could also do a real test by booting into macOS recovery. And like I said, using that native migration doesn't remove the agent, doesn't remove all the extra stuff, so you'll probably need some extra cleanup scripts. Things like login window replacement, those extra details. Kanji's got lots of cleanup scripts. If you are trialing Kanji, you've got access to support just like you would if you were a paying customer. So we can help provide some of those scripts for you for testing. I hope you can learn from some of my mistakes in exploring the new migration feature. I wanted to get my test devices out of Kanji's ABM and into my old company's, my personal Dreher Network Consultants ABM, because I had Apple Business Essentials in there. I didn't want to introduce that into the Kanji environment, plus it was a little bit cleaner. So I released it. I released it from Kanji, used Apple Configurator 2 to put it back into the DNCI ABM. And the deadline wouldn't work because it's in that provisional 30-day window, and deadline is not applicable for that 30-day provisional window. I also had a test Mac that was enrolled in Apple Business Essentials, and I removed the MDM profile, and that removed Apple Business Essentials from that Mac, but it also released that Mac from ABM. I'm like, oh, back to that provisional 30-day window. One thing about the 30-day provisional window is it does not start until the moment that that device is enrolled in an MDM solution. So it's not just enough to add it with Apple Configurator 2, you have to actually enroll it in a device management solution. And one more little detail that I think they'll probably fix is I was so excited to set the deadline that I set the deadline first, and then I chose a different management solution. And when you choose that management solution, the deadline disappears. So just choose the solution first, then set the deadline. So Grace, do you have any advice for making this work?
Well, hopefully now you have a better idea of what the new migration procedure looks like. But while understanding the process can definitely make migration more approachable, there are still steps that you need to be taken to be sure you're avoiding any potential hiccups. Oops.
Clicker is sensitive.
Yes. The first step is, of course, planning out exactly what your organization needs to happen during this process. Most likely, your previous environment has an expiration date fast approaching, and you want to know exactly how much time you will need, and a little extra just in case, so that you aren't rushing or making mistakes right down to the finish line. How much time you will need will vary greatly by the size of your organization, the complexity of your environment, and how much cleanup you need to do to identify what needs to get moved and what can get left behind, along with 100 other differences that make every migration unique. But there are some key milestones to base your planning off of that we will discuss here. As Arek mentioned earlier, being able to enforce hard deadlines for your users to complete their migration is not only going to give administrators way more control over the overall flow of the process, but should also save significant time in their user follow-up and hopefully troubleshooting, but we'll see how that goes. However, this also brings more moving pieces into play that will need to be plotted and tested before rollout, especially for iOS and iPadOS if you want to keep your app data after the switch. Once you have cataloged all of your apps and decided on what you are bringing with you, you also need to test each one of those apps to make sure all of the data you want to keep is coming too. Of course, most of these things seem like an obvious step in the preparation process, but the difference between thinking, yeah, I know what needs to happen, and a written down plan is huge. Even just the act of putting everything into a schedule, writing down the most obvious things that you would never forget anyways, will get your brain flowing through the process and give you time to catch any oversights. The spreadsheet I have on screen is probably too small for you to read, but it is from my last house move, where I made a play-by-play of all the items that needed to get done, where each box I was bringing with me needed to go, and how long each task could take before I needed to start reevaluating my plan. Because of course, nothing will ever actually go perfectly to plan. But just having that framework in place from the beginning gives you a benchmark to look at a problem and say, this is not great, but I can still work with this. Or to be able to say, oh my God, I need to stop, rethink, and move some things around. Now, I may not be able to give you an exact time frame of how long this process will take when you're doing migration, but I can give you a guide of where to start, what steps you need to take to prepare, and a few other tips to start your planning. Ideally, you will start your device management service trials well before your current license expires. How far in advance exactly will again depend on how long you expect the rest of the process to take, so you want to start planning with as much leeway as possible. And you should look into as many options as possible. There are so many great options out there, so you don't want to just go for the first one you test without any comparison. As a distributor, a big part of our job is looking at your specific needs and being able to supply and being able to give recommendations based on what we feel is your best match. So I think that makes us a great resource for someone starting a search from scratch. Once you have decided to start your search, it is also time to take inventory of your current environment. Decide what to keep, what to leave behind, figure out if that random script from 8 years and 2 admins ago that no one has touched since is keeping anything vital afloat, or if it will sink your ship after removal. And keep a running list of what needs to be in your new environment. The more granular, the better, as it not only having a list of specific apps that need transferring, but also which apps' data logs you will still need access to post-migration will help prioritize testing down the road. Next, you are going to take that list and replicate it in the trial environment of your device management service of choice. Already, any little memos or notes that you have in your checklist will make this process smoother and make it less likely for anything to slip through the cracks. Once you have a tidied up version of your new environment set up, now you can start preparing your cleanup scripts that you will need for the migration. These might remove old agents or login window replacements, and depending on your service provider, they might be able to supply them for you, or at least direct you to where you can get them yourself. Once these are in place, it is time to start testing. As I'm sure you all know better than everyone, the more testing the better, so it is really important that you are not only testing each individual setting, but also different types of users, locations, and any other scenario that you can think of that could raise problems. I have more slides later that go deeper into this step, as it is very important to make sure things run smoothly. I'll get the hang of it eventually. Now, by this point, you should be pretty confident in both the device management service you have chosen and that you have solved or at least prepared for any potential issues that could arise during migration. This is when you should sign your new service contract, when you are both completely comfortable in your choice and your preparation. Finally, you can begin the official migration process. To start, you will need to add the new device management service to your ABM account, if it is not already there. Then, select the device you want to start with, click the ellipses to find the Assign Device Management button, and begin scheduling your users' enrollment deadlines. While you can do this in any format you like, we recommend splitting the process into waves instead of trying to do too many people all at once. This will make it much easier to monitor and deal with any issues that arise, so keeping each group to numbers you can easily work with will save you and your users a lot of stress. Once your last enrollment deadline has passed, you can do a final sweep and make sure no stragglers have snuck through the cracks, and again, make sure that everything that needed to move is in its new location. Finally, once all of this is done, it is safe to officially cancel your old MDM, or your old license. There is no rush to do this last step, other than potential budget constraints, but it is better to be safe than sorry, and there are a few reasons you might want to hang on to your old environment for a little longer. But if not, then at this point, you and your users should be safely settled into your new environment, and your migration is officially complete. Now that you have a concrete plan of what needs to happen, it is time to move on to testing. This is where all the fun and usually the problems tend to happen. Going back to our moving analogy, here is a photo up on this side. On the left is a 3D mock-up of the apartment that I made before I moved into the new house. The new place is as small as Tokyo apartments are famous to be, But knowing that I was going to work from home, I needed to maximize what little space I had. And I tested out multiple potential layouts with this 3D render before I finally settled on what you see now. On the right is the finished room in real life, which I am proud to say ended up quite close to the design. This is actually my living room, dining room, and home office all in one, but I think it has held up decently under such heavy use.
I got a question, Grace. What's the deal with the rugs?
That is actually a funny story because I was only using this rug to figure out the dimensions, and it was like the standard rug on the software I was using. And when I went to go shopping at IKEA, I saw the exact same rug, and I bought it because I had to have it at that point. Unfortunately, it is no longer with us. It did not survive a run-in with a blueberry smoothie and a blender with a loose lid.
So our time is done. So
our time is done?
Yep.
Oh, no. It is very important to test. I don't need to tell you all that. But you're going to want to test as many times as possible by yourself, then send the same testing off to your team to have them do the same, and then with as many user groups as possible. And even though this can be intimidating, you have so much support. You have distributors, you have your vendors, which also can provide unique use cases from other customers they've worked with, and of course, you have the lovely community that we have made here. Even from the few short days I've been here, I can already tell that everyone in attendance has a whole list of friends that they can contact for advice. So you should be in safe hands regardless. I do have things to give out. I have 3 questions that are going to be on screen. I won't ask them now, but if you want to provide the answer, then you can look just like our lovely model when you go visit a sauna while you're here in Sweden, in our magic sauna hats that we created to give out at events.
Do you have any candy?
I have so much candy, and even if you don't want to answer my questions, please come get some. I don't want to take it with me on the plane ride home. So, that is the end of our session. I hope that now that you've heard everything, device service migration seems less intimidating. It opens your organization up to so many changes and opportunities for development that were previously possible. So we really hope that you look at it as a viable solution, whether you're a bigger company who wants to find their forever solution or a smaller company just looking to find somewhere to grow. And when you give your users more power to choose, vendors are also forced to evolve with them, which only brings mutual benefits for everyone, even if it can seem scary at the beginning. So I hope if you ever decide to try migration with the new ABM update, please let us know. And thank you so much for listening to our talk today.